giving us on this Bhagavatam Shloka 325:11. So here you can nicely, in the lecture itself, you would have heard how Maharaj is insisting on the pronunciation of the words nicely. So if you see here, this word Purushasya, he saying like we should nicely, because there is a hyphen right above you, he's insisting on how we have to do the, sing it very nicely, Purushasya, like that. And then, did you find anything unique in this word to word? Any particular word which you liked? How many of you had the chance to hear Devki Prabhu's class in Chennai? Like, I think Sunday he had given an online class. I'm not sure. How many of you could hear it? So in that he was mentioning about the importance of word-to-word equivalence. Like Maharaj was telling, it seems, why Prabhupada had to write word-to-word equivalence. Did anyone get the chance to hear about that?
No, Mataji.
Okay. So Maharaj was asking, it seems, like for any shloka, right? Prabhupada could have simply written translation purport, correct? What was the need for word to word? You can think now and tell. Why should Prabhupada write word to word? Sanskrit we will not understand, he could have just given in the translation, right? Why he gave word to word?
Maybe Mataji, each word itself has a significance there. There is a purpose for each of the words, and normally the English, as Aparna says, to avoid that speculation also, and to understand the point of everything, I think.
Yeah. Yes. That is there, correct. In Prabhupada's word towards equivalence also, whenever you're going through the Prabhupada's books, you might have already come across also, like for the same word in different verses, Prabhupada would give different meaning. Right? Like that was Prabhupada's uniqueness. So he never did a literal translation. He did a realized translation. Not just according to the context alone, but it was filled with devotion. So he gave a realized translation. A normal Sanskrit scholar might have translated it in a different manner, and in many places you will find word to word has a meaning, translation has a better meaning. In the sense he would have explained it more in translation and more nicely in the purport also. For the same word, you will find 3 different flavors of explanation. I think Gaurangi is also mentioned for better understanding, deep understanding, and to avoid speculation. And Gauri has told, otherwise we might interpret in a different manner. Yeah, same thing. And to help us understand the Sanskrit words and help us learn the exact meaning of the words. Okay, but Maharaj gave a very nice reason, like Devaki Prabhu was sharing, the word-to-word equivalents are expression of Prabhupada's love for Krishna. No, they are. If you love someone, when you love someone, you would like to know more in detail about them, like what they like, what is the particular thing which is pleasing to them. You will try to know more and more about them, more and more details about them, like that. These verses are non-different from Krishna, and Prabhupada, out of his love, he wanted to tell more details. So he put this extra effort of giving the word to word. So whenever you're studying any verse also, you please never skip the word to word equivalence. Prabhupada has put so much hard work and labor to write these things. So you would have heard, right? Like you would also read and known also, like how Prabhupada used to get up in the middle of the night, 1 a.m. and he used to do this service of translating all these scriptures. So in this, Maharaj also used to mention that these Sanskrit words, like he always encouraged that we should try to understand the words, word to words. Then that would help us to remember the meaning also very nicely, and even it will help us in memorizing the verse also nicely. So here, one point Maharaj used to mention is that many of the words, they are very close to what we might have in our own local mother tongues, right? Like Sharanam, right? Sharanam is like a little close. No, Sharanam means like we fold the hands, right? Like it's a meaning of taking shelter. Sharanam. And this word is very nice, unique. If you see in the whole lecture also, Maharaj would be giving importance for these two words, Sharanam, Sharanya. Right? Sharanyam is telling a nice word. Sharanyam means, what is he saying?
Worth taking shelter of.
Shelter of, yeah. Okay. So this verse is actually being spoken by Devahuti to Kapila Dev. So how many of you know who is Devahuti?
Mother of Kapila Dev.
Okay, mother of Kapila Dev, and who is
daughter of one of the Prajapatis. Swayambhu Manu. Sorry.
Swayambhu Manu. Yeah. So yeah, very nice. So Brahma was given. You all know, right? Brahma was given the duty of secondary creation. Krishna asked Brahma to create the universe, and Brahma in turn, he created many Prajapatis. Like in Bhagavatam, if when you go through, you will come to know, like Brahma from his face, he would create the Brahmanas. From his mind, he created the Manus. So in different manners, Brahma would create. He would do the task of create a service of creating the demons also, because they are also part of the creation, right? Like whether it is pleasing or not, that's one great quality in Brahma. We should learn. Sometimes we don't like some service. We are not so much inclined to do some service, but for the pleasure of the Lord, for Krishna's pleasure, we should do. So likewise, Brahma created so many different living entities, and Manu was Prajapati. Prajapati means, as you can see, the leader of Praja. Praja means one, whoever are born. So they had the duty. All these Brahma, after creating the Prajapatis, he gave them the duty of increasing the progeny, increasing the population in the world. So Swayambhu Manu was a Prajapati, and Kardama Muni was a Brahmana sage. Devahuti, Swayambhu Manu's daughter is Devahuti, and he gives his daughter in marriage to Kardama Muni. Okay, so before the marriage itself, Kardama Muni, he does lots of penance. He prays to Krishna to get a suitable wife, and at that time, actually, he does many 10,000 years of penance, because Brahma had asked him to create good progeny, good children. Right? So in order to beget good children, he would do a lot of austerities. So 10,000 years of tapas he does. And then the Lord appears before him and he says that whatever you have prayed for is granted by me. Swayambhu Manu would come with his daughter, Devahuti, and she's suitable wife for you. Krishna would say that to Kardama Muni. He will give his daughter in marriage to you, and Krishna will also tell that you will get 9 daughters through them, and those daughters will in turn marry the other sages, and they will increase the progeny. And pleased with the austerity, Krishna says, I will myself come as a son. So Kapila Dev is actually Krishna incarnation only. Okay, so he's saying, I will come as a son to you. And after that, you should take to renounce order of life. That was his Kardamuni's, Lord's instruction to Kardamuni. Okay, so this as Krishna sanctioned, same thing would happen. Devahuti gets married to Kardamuni and they beget children, and then as after Kapila is born, Kardamuni goes to the he goes to the renounced order of life. Devahuti, like before marriage itself, Kardamuni would tell, when Manu comes himself, he would be telling this, whatever instructions he has received from the Lord, he would be telling to Manu and Devahuti. So Devahuti knew that her son is not an ordinary child. She knew that her son is personality of God himself. So after the husband leaves, she will ask, she will seek for knowledge from Kapila Dev, and that's the sequence of this verse. Okay, so in that sequence only, she's praying this verse to Kapila Dev. So in this translation, would anyone like to, you can read this translation. Can anyone read out what she's asking, just for your understanding? Are you able to see the screen? Yeah.
Mataji, should I read?
Yeah, please.
Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter.
Okay. Thank you, Prerna. So this Sharanyam is there, right? This is the word she's telling for Krishna to Kapila Dev. I've taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are only person who are worth taking shelter of. Sharanyam. And what is the word you see for axe in Sanskrit? From the word to word, can you find out what is the word?
Kutaram.
Kutara.
Yeah. So she's saying you are the axe, and what will the axe do? Axe they usually use to
Cut down.
Cut down the trees, right? It's a thorough. So what tree she's requesting to be cut?
The material matter.
Material existence.
You might have all read 15th chapter, I think. Like Gita, Bhagavad Gita, you might have recited the verses, right? Ashwattham.
Yes, Mataji.
Ashwattham Enam, Suviruda Moolam. One of the verses, it's mentioned in the 15th chapter, right? Like how this, the 15th chapter actually explains about Krishna, Purushottama, he is the Purushottama, right? And about the spiritual world and the material world, how this, the comparison of the tree lying in the, would anyone like to explain before, because I think I'm speaking a lot. Maybe if you would like to share also, if I can hear from you also. Anyone would like to share? What does the 15th chapter say? Yeah, yes, Aparna.
Mataji, is it the same verse which explains that it is an upside down tree which grows, whose roots grow on the upside and the branches are
going down.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah,
that's what I
like
recall.
So, yeah, correct, very correct. So what does it actually refer to? Anyone would like to share Anyone, if you know, you can share. If you don't know, you can say so. Okay. Okay, so the tree, the comparison of the tree, it's actually the real, as Krishna later explains, there is no such tree. He's giving that example for us to understand that whatever is there in the material world, it's actually a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Okay, if you can, in the spiritual world, there is Sat Chit Anand, right? Eternity. Chit means
Knowledge.
and Anand. What does Anand mean? Avani?
Bliss.
Eternal
Yeah.
happiness.
Yeah, happiness. So in the spiritual world, these things are in full and always present. But the material world, as you know, we might have some. First of all, it's temporary, right? We are also temporary. Our stay is also temporary here, and the material world itself is the creation itself is just a temporary manifestation. It's real, but it is temporary. And the knowledge is also very limited. Like we don't have the complete knowledge of things, right? Like we don't have that 100% view of anything. And then Anand, the happiness also, as we all experience, right? It comes like sine wave. We get happiness, sadness, happiness, sadness. It's like that. So it's material world is actually perverted reflection, opposite of what is there in the spiritual world. And these branches, as Krishna explains, 15.1. Yeah, yes, Sanjay, you can speak also. Okay, feel free to unmute and speak always. Yeah. So 15.1, 2, 3, those verses explain how the Krishna then goes on to explain how these branches, they go upwards as well as downwards. Okay, and Krishna explains that depending upon our gunas, right? Whether we are in Sattva guna, Rajoguna, or Tamoguna, we either travel up to higher planets or get degraded to lower planets. In simple words, if you want to understand that, no, based on that's why he would mention some branches are going upwards also. First he says that some branches are going down, right? And then he later mentions some branches are going upwards also. So depending, based on the gunas, Sattva guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. I think you people would be aware of the gunas, right? If anyone doesn't know, you can unmute and say, please. Yes, no? So what do I understand the silence?
Mataji, you said if we don't know, we have to unmute. So I think all of us know that we were all on mute.
All are on mute. Okay. So based on our gunas, we either go upwards or downwards. And then he says, Krishna says in the third verse that we are these habits are like so much strongly rooted. The tree is strongly rooted. We cannot see its the beginning or end or the base, but it is very much strongly rooted, and one should use the acts of detachment. That's the thing Krishna says there. Asanga shastrena. Shastra means weapon, right? The same thing is being told by Devahuti here. Weapon. What is the weapon she's telling? Axe, kutara. That acts of detachment, using the acts of detachment only, we can cut the material entanglements. So she's requesting here, like on our own, it's not so easy to give up the bad habits that you would have also experienced, or you might have heard also, right? It's not so easy to give up all these anattas in us. But when we take shelter of pure devotees who are surrendered to Supreme Lord, then it becomes easy. By the process of devotional service, it becomes easy. Herein, Devahuti is having her son as a Supreme Lord himself. So she is requesting, she's surrendering unto him and she's requesting him, you are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. Now you understand what is the tree of material existence, this Taro? Are you able to understand?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Mataji.
yeah. So she is saying this, and then Jigyasaya Prakrite Purushasya. So these two words are also very important. Like Jigyasaya, this is a very good quality, no? For all of us. This Jigyasa, what does Jigyasa mean?
Inquisitiveness.
Inquisitiveness. That is very important, right? Like when we should always have that thirst, eagerness to know more about Krishna, to learn. So Jigyasya, so she's asking, I'm inquisitive to know what she wants to know. Prakriti, what is Prakriti?
Nature.
Matter. You told nature, is it? Okay, yeah, nature. Prakriti is material nature. And then Purusha. Purusha in, yeah, here it Prabhupada gives a spirit. In general, what do we know, understand? Without the word, what do you think? Purusha means?
Man.
Man, right? Yeah, Purusha means man. So, Prabhupada later in the purport, if you see, he goes on to explain, Purusha actually is Krishna. Okay? Krishna is the actual Purusha, but, and all of us are Prakriti. But because we sometimes, out of illusion, consider ourselves as Purusha. Purusha means like Krishna is the Purusha, means Krishna is the only enjoyer. Purusha also has this meaning of enjoyer. Have you heard this shloka in Gita, Bhoktaram Yajna Purusha? Have you heard? There is one.
Bhoktaram, I don't know if it's the right one, Mataji. The Bhoktaram Yasya Tapasa, that one?
No, Bhoktaram Yajna Purusha, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. 29 or 21.
Mataji, the next time will Lokadhyaksham Swanithyam.
What is it, ma?
Is it Lokadhyaksham Swanithyam, the next line?
No, I just I'm showing it in the screen now. It's 5.29. Are you able to see?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Sugudam Sarva Bhutanam Yatpanam Shanti Mechati. Okay, I didn't have the Purusha word here, is it? Okay, sorry. Oh yeah, Yajna Tapasam. Okay. Okay, Bhoktaram, anyway, Bhoktaram means one who enjoys. No? Krishna is the one who could enjoy everything. So Purusha actually refers to the enjoyer, and it actually refers only to Krishna. And
Kunti Maharani also says, na, Namasye Purusham Tvadyam.
yes, Mataji. Purusha, yeah, correct, Mataji. So there also, if you see, 118, I think. So Purusha is actually referred to Krishna, okay, supreme person. He is the but because in this material world we wrongly try to consider ourselves as the enjoyer, we have this samsara. Samsara means material existence. So here Devagati in the purport also, she like Prabhupada is explaining about that. I don't know, we saw about the 15th chapter also. Like she is then praying to Kapila Muni to help her come out of this entanglement. And this word is also very nice. Namami. Namami means just like how Kunti Maharani also starts her prayers, Namasye, like that. Devagati is also telling, I offer my obeisances. And unto whom is she's expressing it very nicely here. Saddharma Vidam Varishtam. What is the meaning if you see Saddharma?
Of the eternal occupation.
Okay, eternal occupation. Dharma, actually, I think from the purport of the Prabhupada is nicely explaining about Dharma, right? What is Dharma? Like, what do you understand? One of you. Dharma in general, in your mother tongue or in your local, simple understanding, what will you say for Dharma? Whoever has not speaken can share. Or anyone please share. Savita, would you like to share? What is Dharma? What do you understand by Dharma? Others also, if you are if you are having mic issues, you can type. What do you understand by the word Dharma?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Savita. Yeah.
Whatever is good, which is written in Shastras, is known as Dharma.
That is also one meaning for Dharma, right? Like Dharma means we think whatever is good, that you should behave according to Dharma, according to the Shastras, okay? Religious, yeah, regulative principles, religious. Dharma means we think that it is religious.
Mataji.
Duties. Yes, Krishna.
Mataji, Dharma means following the rules and regulations of Guru.
Yeah. So following the rules and regulations. Those are different meanings of Dharma. In Sanskrit, a single word has different meanings. But here, the actual meaning.
Mataji,
Yes, Aparna.
the inherent property of any substance or like entity.
The natural, the natural sabhava, the natural
Yes,
characteristic of anything, that is also called Dharma. So Prabhupada in many of his lectures he will explain, Dharma of sugar is, what is the Dharma of sugar?
To be sweet.
To be sweet. So fire is to be?
To burn.
Is to burn.
Heat, hot. Okay. So likewise, what is the Dharma of the soul? What is
To
the
connect
Dharma?
with God.
To be the servant of the Lord.
To be the servant of the Lord. Okay, so that is known as Saddharma. That is our eternal occupation. Saddharma. Okay, and she is referring Krishna, Kapila Dev as Saddharma Vidam. Vidam. What is the meaning of Vidam?
Of the knowers.
Knowers. Like you would have heard this word Vidya, right? You might have friends also, like so many. Vidya is a very common name. So Vidya comes this word, root word, vid.
In this lecture itself, Maharaj tells, no?
Lecture itself, Maharaj gives a very nice meaning for Vidya. Did you notice? What does Maharaj say?
Vid means to know, and Vidya means knowledge.
That which is worth knowing.
Worthy to be known. Like if you take Sharanya, like that you can know, like Sharanya means worth taking shelter of. Like on similar lines, Vidya means worth knowing. What is worth to be known? Just like how Sharanya, worth taking shelter of is Krishna. Krishna is the only one who is worth taking shelter of. Likewise, Vidya means worth knowing. Worth to be known is transcendental knowledge. Krishna is Divya Vidya, right? Like he is the only one worth to be known. So here in this context, Saddharma Vidam, she's telling you are the person who knows about the Saddharma. You are the greatest. Varishtam is greatest. So she's saying you are the one Saddharma Vidam. So our natural duty, natural dharma of the soul is to do devotional service. So I think we reached up to the end of the purport. I think it's how he is ending the purport. So this whole philosophy, right? Like what she's being discussed about, what is the way to get detached, and the relationship between Prakriti and Purusha, and how to get detached from this, and what is the dharma of the soul. All these things are being explained by Kapila, and that philosophy is called Sankhya philosophy. So that's what is being mentioned in the initial line of the purport. So So far, we could cover only up to this. Then we have not yet started with Mara's points. But since we are reaching time, Krishna willing, will stop here. If you have any points or any questions, any doubts so far, whatever you could not understand, anything you can share now.
Mataji, I just have a question. We haven't covered that point yet, but so should I ask it or should I leave it for next week?
You can ask, then maybe we'll discuss next week. Others could think also and share.
Then I will ask next week itself, Mataji. Then we'll have the flow. So I'll ask next week.
No, you can just ask. Yeah.
So Maharaj had said that all these verses should make us feel more humble. So then how do we maintain a balance between humility and like having good self-esteem? So how do we maintain that balance?
Yes, very nice question. I think it would be a good thing to, good question to all of us to meditate on this, and then we'll come back next week. I would like to hear answers from you all itself. Oh, is it okay? Did you understand what Harshita asked? Others?
Mataji, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, Harshita.
Shall I?
Yes.
So how do we maintain the balance of being humble as well as having good self-esteem?
You can actually, this is giving us nice time for hearing the lecture again. I think we just covered only 10 minutes of Maharaj's lecture. Whatever Harshita is asking is coming in the later part of the lecture. So you please take this as a homework. Like as we suggested, you listen at least 5 minutes daily. So then definitely you will be able to cover till 30 minutes. So every time you hear it is Maharaj's lecture is so refreshing that you will know. He himself would reveal us so many points. So you can it's just my humble request, if you could make notes and then come, then this discussion would be all the more enlivening. Is it agreeable to all?
Yes, Mataji, thank you. Yeah.
Purnima Mataji and Abhirkanya Mataji, would you like to share your thoughts?
It's okay, Mataji, you have covered almost.
Okay. Yuri Mataji as well. Yeah, Purnima Mataji, yes.
Yes, Mataji, I was going to do the same thing. The way you covered each word to word and connecting that word with other shlokas, that was nice. Yeah.
Okay, so because we reached time, so Krishna willing, will stop now. Other children also, like even based on your schedules, whoever could not do the bhajan presentation, based on your schedules, you can share offline in the group or individually to any of the Matajis as to when how your schedules are placed, to take up the presentation. I think next week Yashika, Aparna, and Vishali, Krishna willing, they will do their presentation. We can continue.
Come to me for pronunciation, just to check up the pronunciation before they do the presentation. Yashika and Vishali.
Yeah, maybe they can connect offline with us. No?
Yeah.
I hope you were able to locate the bhajan, Aparna, Yashika.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Okay. So, if maybe after, like we will continue this lecture of Maharaj as far as it goes, Krishna allows, Maharaj allows, we will continue to discuss. And because they were ready there for the presentation on September 5th, so that team can go on that week.
After the presentation, we can see this, no?
Yeah, we can do the discussion so that we'll have a peaceful time for discussion.
Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah. Hope that is fine with all of you also, right? Yashika? We'll start off the session with your presentation, Sri Krishna. Okay. Thank you for joining, and please do remember the point about hearing Mara's lecture and taking notes. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you.
Hare Krishna.